Alright, so tonight we are going to begin practicing dividing with the expanded notation method. Make sure that you have tonight's date, your title, and your learning goal copied down. Your learning goal for tonight is I can use the expanded notation method to solve division problems with 2-digit or 3-digit dividends and 1-digit divisors. Pause your video here and take a minute to copy that information down. Press play when you're ready to begin. Alright, we are going to be using the equation 192 divided by 8 equals n. I want us to start off using the area model to solve this problem. And this should look familiar to you because we have already practiced this method. So as I'm working through this equation, I want you to think about what the next step is that I should take. I've already started my thinking here, so I'm going to go ahead and explain what I've done. I have placed my dividend, 192, inside my box. I've placed my divisor, the number of equal groups that I'm making, 8, outside my box. My beginning thinking is, okay, what is an easy number that I can multiply by 8 that's going to get me close to this number 192? Remember that when we're thinking about easy numbers, we're thinking about numbers like 2, 5, 10, 20, 30, 40, etc. I'm going to start with 10 and see how close I can get to my dividend. Well, I know that 8 times 10 is 80. I don't think that's quite close enough to 192, so I'm going to try my next easy number, which is 20. 8 times 20 is 160. I would say that 160 is pretty close to 192. Let's check and see what would happen if we used our next easy number, which is 30. 8 times 30 is 240. Do I have 240 pieces that I'm distributing? Well, no, so 30 does not work. That is too large. So I'm going to back down to 20. 8 times 20 is 160. That means that I have already distributed 160 of my 192 pieces. So I'm going to take those away from my total. 2 minus 0 is 2. 9 minus 6 is 3. And 1 minus 1 is 0. So I now have 32 pieces left that I need to distribute, which means that I need to go ahead and tack on a second box. Remember, when I do that, I'm putting an addition sign because I need to add my next part of my quotient. And I'm going to take my 32 and I'm going to move it up to the top of the box. My new dividend is 32. So now I say to myself, what is a number that I can multiply by 8 that's going to get me close to 32? Well, we obviously know it's going to be less than 10. And you know your 8's facts, and you know that 8 times 4 is exactly 32. So now you have distributed the rest of your 32 pieces. So you can take them away from your dividend, which leaves you with 0 pieces to distribute. When we have 0 pieces left to distribute, that tells us that we're done and we need to add up the parts of our quotient. So 20 plus 4 equals 24. The quotient to the equation 192 divided by 8 is 24. Go ahead and pause your video here and copy down that information. Press play when you're ready to begin again. Okay, so now we're going to apply our area model to our new expanded notation method. I would like for you to have your pencils down while I am explaining the expanded notation model, and you will be able to pause your video at the end to copy everything down. As we work through our expanded notation method, I think that you're going to see that it's very similar to the area model. And I want you to kind of try to make those connections between your area model and your expanded notation method as we work through it. Down here, I have already set up some of my model for us. This portion over here is just a drawing for me to kind of show you as we work through it what we're doing. This is not actually part of the expanded notation method. This is just a drawing to help us understand what's going on. We set up our expanded notation method just like you would set up a traditional or a standard logarithm for division. Your dividend, the number that's being divided or split up, goes inside this division house. Your divisor, the number that's doing the dividing, goes outside your division house. So what I like to say is that 8 is knocking at this door saying, knock, knock, 192, how many times can I come in? And however many times 8 can go into 192 goes up here on top of the house. And this is where we will form our quotient. So let's go ahead and try to start thinking through this equation. When we start, we're always going to start with the largest place value, and 8's going to say, knock, knock, 1, can I come in? So I have a 1 in my hundreds place, and what that's saying is, do I have enough hundreds to distribute 100 to each of my 8 groups? Well, I only have 100 and I have 8 groups, so no, I don't quite have enough hundreds to give every group 100. So now I have to look at my tens. I have 19 tens. Do I have enough tens sticks to give each of my 8 groups at least 1 or at least 2 10 sticks? Well, yes. And we know that from our area model. We knew that we were able to give each of our 8 groups 20 pieces, which is equivalent to 2 tens. And you can see that when we do it in our drawing over here. If we distribute 2 tens to each of our 8 groups, we have distributed 16 tens total, which is equivalent to 160 pieces. So let's count. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120, 130, 140, 150, 160. If I give each of my 8 groups 2 tens or 20 pieces, I have distributed 160 pieces. So I can go ahead and subtract that from my total dividend. 2 minus 0 is 2. 9 minus 6 is 3. And 1 minus 1 is 0. 32 now becomes my new dividend. And now my 8 is knocking at 32's door saying, knock, knock, 32, how many times can I come in? Well, we know our multiplication fact, and we know that 8 can go into 32 4 times. 4 times 8 is 32, and you can subtract that from your pieces left over, which gives you 0 pieces left to distribute. This 4 up here tells me that I'm going to give each of my groups 4 ones. And when I do that, I have now distributed the last 32 pieces. To figure out what my quotient is, I'm just going to look at one of my 8 groups. I have 10, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. So each group has 24 pieces, which is the same quotient that we got up here. Using our model, we find our quotient by adding the two pieces up here. So 20 plus 4 is 24. We got the same answer that we did in our area model, which is our goal, because remember that no matter what method we use to solve the equation, the quotient should always remain the same. Go ahead and pause your video here to get that information copied down, and then we're going to do another one together. Okay, so now we're going to use this word problem to pull information out and then use our expanded notation method to solve. You do not need to copy this word problem. However, you will need to copy the information that we pull out of the word problem. Let's read the problem together. Next month, HSES plans to take their 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade students to a Carolina Hurricanes hockey game. There are 846 students, staff, and parents who will attend the game. Each row in the hockey arena contains 9 seats. How many rows of seating will HSES need to reserve? Okay, the first important piece of information that I see is 846 students, staff, and parents. That's the first piece of important information that I'm going to pull out. And when I pull it out, I'm going to paraphrase, which is an important skill for us to practice. So 846. And instead of writing students, staff, and parents, I'm just going to write people, because people is another label that works for students, staff, and parents. All right. As I continue reading, I see that each row in the hockey arena contains 9 seats. So I'm going to write 9 seats per row. Nine seats each row. All right. And the last part is the question that I'm being asked. I am being asked, how many rows will HSES need to reserve? So I am looking for how many rows. Go ahead and pause your video here so that you can get this information that we pulled out of our word problem copied down in your notebook. Press play when you're ready to begin again. Okay, if we were to look at each of our parts, 846 is our total that we're going to be splitting up, which is what we call our dividend. 9 is the number of equal groups that we're going to be splitting up into, which will be our divisor. Our quotient is the answer that we're looking for, and we are looking to find out how many rows, or the number of rows, that HSES will need to reserve. When we're setting this problem up, remember that our dividend goes inside our house, 846. Our divisor knocks at the door, and our quotient will be built up top. We are going to practice putting labels on our problems. So 846 is people. 9 is seats. Squeeze that in there. And up top, our quotient is rows. or number of rows. In a word problem, it's going to be very helpful for you to label the parts so that you know what you're answering. All right, let's go ahead and attack this problem and see if we can solve. So our first step is to say, knock, knock, 8. Can 9 come in? Do I have enough hundreds to give each of my 9 groups 100? No. I only have 8 hundreds and I have 9 groups, so I do not have enough. Which then tells me that I need to look at my tens. I have 84 total tens. Can 9 go into 84? Yeah, so we need to figure out what times 9 is going to get me close to 84, which really we're looking at 840. So I know that 9 times 9, if I gave each of my 9 groups 9 10 sticks, which is equal to 90 pieces, I would have given out 810 total pieces. Because 9 times 90 is 810. I know that because I covered up my 0 and I said 9 times 9 is 81. And I had 1 0 covered up, so I'm going to tack a 0 onto the end. Now I need to subtract these 810 pieces because I have already distributed them. 6 minus 0 is 6. 4 minus 1 is 3. And 8 minus 8 is 0. So my new dividend, or the pieces that I still need to distribute, are 36 pieces. I have 36 people that I have not distributed yet. So now I say, all right, 36. How many times can 9 go into 36? Well, I know my facts, and I know that 9 can go into 36 how many times? That's right. 9 times 4 is 36. That means I'm giving each of my 9 groups 4 more pieces. 9 times 4 is 36. And that lets me distribute the rest of my pieces, leaving me with 0 pieces left to distribute. Remember that when I have 0 pieces left to distribute, I have finished my steps and I need to come back up to the top and add my quotient. So 90 plus 4 is 94. So the answer to our word problem would be that HSES needs to reserve 94 rows of seats. Go ahead and pause your video, get that information copied down. If you have any questions about the area model or the new model, the expanded notation model that we learned tonight, go ahead and write your questions on the bottom of your notes and we'll talk about them tomorrow. Have a great night.